You know, when Marilyn sent out the theme for the week, I really struggled. One of the things I've always been a firm believer is in signs. I give signs. I think everything that comes from people who have passed before provide signs, and sometimes those signs can slap you in the face. Marilyn's theme, slap me in the face. I have been told many times to be able to share my story. My story is kind of crazy. When you can make a therapist go, what the hell? You kind of know you got something a little weird. But with that, I've been really excited now to be able to explain a little bit about what basically brought me into teaching. And spending 28 years in K-12 doesn't come without a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And just recently, I joined Sages Learning a couple of years ago, and it's still part of my story because of how everything has kind of changed me as a result of the life experiences I've been through. So I want to pose a question to you. If you were to think about this right now, and go ahead and talk about it with your table mates, who are you? What's the first word that comes to your mind? Take just a second to do that. All right, the grammar test. How many of you provided an adjective? You described yourself. All right, shout out some words. What are you? Complicated. What was that? Creative, excellent. Did anybody have nouns? Mom, teacher, administrator, grandmother, awesome. Kim, grandmother, right? Boss, excellent. We all define ourselves in different ways, and really you've come to define yourself based on past experiences, but also the little idiosyncrasies that happen in life, the things that make your path change. And I don't remember exactly whose presentation it was, but they showed how you think your life's gonna go, and it's that trajectory, but instead it's the swirly, crazy thing. No one's life is a straight trajectory. And really learning to appreciate that and determine what can make you who you are and being able to be willing to be vulnerable. We've talked a lot this week about what makes us who we are, how we can use that to be our best versions of ourselves. And of course, I drew the short straw, so I'm at the end, but I'm hoping to wrap this all up for everybody here. All right. So I'm gonna go back to Sesame Street here. Which one of these things is not like the other? Okay, so the top picture there is me with my two sisters. I am adopted. My sisters are not. They are short, blonde, green eyes. I am not. So always they go, oh, how'd you get so tall? That's nothing you want to just sit there and explain, especially like when you're 8. The left-hand picture is me a few months after I was adopted. And then the picture over here, this one makes me giggle because of a comment made by my husband's grandma. Bless her soul, but good Lord. This picture is in my living room, and it's a big old black and white 16 by 20 picture taken at Centennial. My husband's grandmother looked at the picture, and she's like, oh, who's the little dark girl? Oh, okay, that's me. And my husband was mortified. And it's fine, no big deal. But it really was another example of all of the times I felt different. If you stop and think about your early childhood, whether it's a situation like mine or something entirely different, have you ever felt different? Raise your hand if you've ever felt different, right? It's a very scary, isolating feeling. And sometimes you might not even realize that you feel different, but there are others with those same differences. If you've ever read, one of my favorite books is Ira Sleeps Over, where he's got to have his teddy bear, and he's mortified to go to a friend's house because he sleeps with his teddy bear, only to find out that his friend also sleeps with a teddy bear. So I encourage you to always share your stories and make sure that you realize that you're never always alone. All right, this bizarre little picture here, it says save. This is a picture of a document that I hand wrote when I was talking to the people at the Florence Crittenden home from where I was adopted. I was an adult, but still very much feeling that I just didn't belong. My family's great. They're lovely people. My parents are brilliant. My father has since passed, but a teacher, somebody that just was very inspirational. That said, I did not have a lot of the same interests, which perplexed me. I couldn't understand why I would be different than the people I'm living with. Shouldn't I have the same interests? And I never really got it. So I did some digging, and this is way before 23andMe and all the other things. And I had called the Florence Crittenden home, and they could not give me any of the information except orally. So I wrote like a mad bandit, and those are about 17 pages worth of scribbles where I could write things down. And I found, not that long later, I got an email I was not expecting. This is from Ancestry.com. So at my husband's request, my oldest son, Alex, who's 27, has a kidney issue. It's actually an arterial issue. Suffice it to say, my husband was like, what, we don't know anything about your background, so maybe you should date a little bit. So I did. And I did 23andMe first, got some pretty interesting information about where everybody came from, et cetera. And then nothing really super concrete, which I'm kind of glad about, just because I wasn't prepared for that. And I did meet online like a third cousin who was lovely and also a teacher from Tennessee, and we have talked multiple times since. And she recommended doing Ancestry. I'm like, oh, cool. This can be just benign, because the first one was false, false. That's what I got in an email at 9:03 p.m. on February 13th. It will be forever in my mind. I did not sleep. My husband did not sleep. We went Google diving like nobody's business. We social media stalked anyone and everyone, just because it was both exciting and terrifying. And then I found the people that look like me. I'm gonna cry. So what you see here is my sister and my brother. Here's where it gets weird, and here was the what the hell moment from my therapist. My birth mom and birth father got married. So they gave me up for adoption, and a couple years later, they got married and had 2 more kids. So they are full siblings. So the crazy thing is, I met my sister a few years ago in Austin. So it's always fun to be here for that reason. The coolest thing that really happened there was, you know how the Austin airport is, but many of you came in that way. I was standing at the bottom of the escalator, getting my luggage. We had planned this trip. Actually, she and my husband had planned this trip as a surprise for me for our birthdays, because our birthdays are actually very, very close together. And she came down the escalator. We were identical. We had the same outfit on. It was super weird, very cool, but like nothing I've ever experienced. Of course, it's my travel suit, so it's, my leggings and my white t-shirt and a denim jacket, which is probably matching 3/4 of the people there, whatever. That said, to have somebody that was exactly the same height as me, looked similar to me, was unreal. Actually, I'm gonna show you this real quick too. Go back. So that's my birth mother and birth father. And that is when they came to my home in April of that year, so a few years ago. And it was the craziest experience because they just kept staring at me, which, okay, I get that sort of, but it was also very weird. and I had instantly 7 aunts. My mom is an only child. I have no aunts on that side. My dad had 1 sister that I didn't know that well. So this was instantaneously amazing because I had so many people basically knocking down my social media door to meet me, which was very cool. My mom is the oldest of 8, and she gave up the child for adoption after her younger sister had done the same thing. Her younger sister gave her child up for adoption, a boy, and I found out through conversations that we grew up 15 minutes from each other, and we've known about each other our whole lives. All right, so what the heck does that have to do with anything here? Really making sure that you understand that core identity and what makes you you also includes the traumatic, it includes the bizarre, it includes the joys and the successes. But understanding who you are leads to that path of success. So really take a look at what those core values, that you have are. Do you have integrity? Can you say that for certain? Are you curious? We know Kimberly's creative, right? Do you have empathy? True empathy. Are you positive? Now, there are a lot of times that we can get suckered into, really getting down in the dumps, or we've just been beaten down, and it's very difficult. But it should be one of our core values to aim for that. And then, of course, ambition. I have seen some of the most ambitious, creative, intelligent women at this conference. This, by far, it sets the bar so high, nothing else will ever measure up. I just go into every other conference going, well, this is gonna kind of suck because it's not Power Trip. This kind of experience where you can be in this house with this many challenged people that are willing to have the tough conversations with you, yet people who are absolutely incredibly supportive of you is like nothing else. When you do take a look at those core values, you should stop and realize that your journey is what got you there. Now, many of you started off as teachers like I did, and you may have had situations as a student yourself that helped shape the type of teacher that you are. I know I did. When we had a little conversation about math, I despised math because I felt like I wasn't good at it. I was fine at it, I was just slow to pick it up. But that changed who I was as a math teacher. I was slower to explain things, more patient, would work harder to make sure that everybody in my room felt like they could ask a question and not be judged. All right, so be real, be you. All right, so this, emotional intelligence is going to be a large part of really what we do to move forward. Making sure that we are obviously using those social skills to maintain those healthy relationships. This can look a lot of different ways. It's really easy to say, keep everybody happy. Have lots of great meetings and keep positive. But you have to have direction in that capacity. You have to be self-aware, not only of who you are now and how you got there, but what made you into the person that you are now, and embrace those even when they are traumatic or when they are really big challenges. Being a decision maker, to be emotionally intelligent, you have to do the hard things. You have to be able to say with fidelity, I believe this is the way we're going to go, and this is why. And then with empathy, making sure that not only are you having the capacity to empathize, but you can appreciate and welcome and encourage those other perspectives. We talked the other day too about the diversity versus equity. Being diverse, bringing people into the room is not enough. What are you doing to level that playing field? Who are you bringing in to support the people that need that support so they can feel an equal part of the conversation? And then, of course, self-regulation. It's easier said than done sometimes. You might be ready to blow your top, but how are you going to make sure that not only you can regulate your emotions and your actions, but those that you work with and those that you lead are able to do the same. And that brings me to the trust trifecta. Now, look in the middle here, that sweet spot is pretty small. You want to aim for it always. You might miss the mark, but you always want to aim for it. It's comprised of 3 pieces: competence, authenticity, and connection. When those 3 things come together, you have this sweet perfection, and it really works to help implement any initiatives that you're doing. So you have ability, reliability, accountability in that competence. When you go to authenticity, do you have boundaries? Have you set appropriate boundaries for yourself? Do you respect confidentiality? It's such an important piece as district leaders. It's an important piece of any relationship. If someone's trusting you with something that is, personal, or something that is, it could hurt someone else, but it's a truth that needed to be told, are you keeping that in confidence? And then, of course, that integrity piece. Then connection. Shared values are incredibly important, and making sure that those values are things that can lift up everyone else. Does it mean you all have to believe the same thing? Absolutely not. But you do need to make sure that you are welcoming anybody's ideas and opinions, but you're holding your values dear. That means being non-judgmental, and it also basically means, again, pulling in the empathy, but also being generous. Being generous with your time, being generous with your ability to share what you do. And I know that time is so precious, but even having that open door policy, knowing that I could if I wanted to, is worth its weight. It's so valuable. All right, so this is one of my favorite quotes by Coco Chanel. In order to be irreplaceable, one must always be different. I think about 3rd grade when everybody had the weird mullets, and even the girl mullets where it's like shortcut and permed, super ugly, super ugly. But everybody had one. Everybody had one. And I had long, dark hair, and I wanted to get the mullet. We didn't call it that. It was called something cooler or whatever. I wanted it like everybody else. And my mom said, absolutely not. There is no way that is happening. And I thought, of course, I had the worst mother in the world. Thank God my mom said that, because that would not work at all. But being different is so hard when we're younger. We all want to fit in any way we can, even if that sometimes means altering our principles. Oh, these guys are picking on so-and-so. I think I'm going to just join in so they don't start picking on me. But we all go through that stage where we're having a self-awareness. We understand that instead of being a person that is going to be locked into the same thing everybody else is doing, you realize that we were born to stand out. All right, so I have a willow tree here for a couple of reasons. One of the things I really want everybody to understand is we all have a big job to do that requires us to deal with a lot of different types of people. Whether you're in industry, whether you're in leading a school district, we have to deal with a wide variety of people. We can still have our principles, we can still have those main goals of our own, but we still have to be able to bend. We have to be able to make sure that we aren't going to break under pressure. What can we learn from each other? What can we do to make small changes that allow us to maybe take a different perspective and change slight direction? Sometimes, however, our lives look like that. It's coming at you hard and fast. But still, with practice and making sure that you know who you are, you too can still bend with grace and come back after the storm stronger and taller than ever. So what does this look like? We've talked a lot of ways that this can happen, through different people's presentations. But I wanted to make sure that you had takeaways that really helped wrap up the whole focus, the whole theme of Power Trip, and have some action steps that you can take, whether you're in industry, whether you're in a school system or anywhere. What can you actually do now to make a difference? So obviously, having things like Ask Me Anything sessions. It requires vulnerability. It's not easy, but those facilitated discussions allow people to feel that their opinion matters and that you're trusting them to bring something forward that can be of value to everyone else. Implement 360-degree feedback processes. You are not a top-down person. I hope that is not the way you lead. Because when you do that and you are not willing to take that feedback yourself, really it starts to become an us versus them. And it's very, very difficult on a culture. Build mentorship programs. And I use the term cross-pollinate. Those mentors and mentees, just because you have a third grade teacher that is new, you don't have to partner them with another third grade teacher. Partner them with someone who has the skills and assets that you're hoping that new teacher will gain. Good teaching is good teaching, no matter what grade it is. Make recognizing and celebrating wins, big and small, a consistent priority. I always think of the movie The Intern, where they have the bell that they ding when something good happens. And sometimes it's whatever likes on Instagram, and one time it was you cleaning a table. But those wins should be celebrated because it shows your people that they matter and that both the big and small things make a difference. Now I'm gonna give you a caveat there. Not everyone wants a public display of appreciation. I'm one of them. Do not say my name out loud in some staff meeting. Absolutely not. That embarrasses me. I want to slide under the table. See you later. But know your people. Survey your people. What's your love language? How do you like to be shown appreciation? By asking your staff that, you have given them the opportunity to express themselves, and then you can meet them where they are. One of my favorite things to do as a teacher was to do the a million things or less. So in a million words or less, typically is what I would send home to parents. And before school even started, I would send home a sheet that said, in a million words or less, tell me what you would like me to know about your student. And dear God, please don't give me a million words. But it really gave across the true impression that I want to know things about them, not only as a student, but as a human being. Because relationships. So when I can build something in, I had a kid that really loved NASCAR. So when I was writing different math problems, I worked that in there, and you can see him smirk. Those teeny tiny little things make a huge difference. Be radically transparent. We talked about Radical Candor, great book, highly recommend as well, but also be radically transparent about your own growth journey. None of us are perfect. We've all slid sideways many occasions, but we want to make sure that we seek out that diversity of thought and talk about your successes, but also just as much, talk about your failures. Because if you aren't willing to share your failures, no one else is either. So in your personal life, a couple different things that this can show as far as your own vulnerability and your own characteristics. Fostering open communications and conversations with your family and friends without judgment. And I kind of focus on family here because this is really key when you're talking with your kids. Now I have a 27-year-old, a 22-year-old, and a 17-year-old. I did the 5-year plan, out of diapers into school before we did it again. And for us, that worked really, really well. But it also had me at different seasons of life for those kids. I had a baby, an elementary school kid, and a junior high kid, and it went all the way up. I never had somebody in the same building at the same time, pretty much ever. And it really taught me as a parent to respond to their requests and listen to them so that they want to be the person that says, instead of, don't tell mom, I want them to be able to say, I need to talk to my mom. So then intentionally build social circles and networking webs that really diversify who you talk to, different cultures, different age group, different experiences. Some of my very best professional colleagues are in their 70s. They have such wisdom, and they're the people I can go to for anything, and I know I'm going to get a wealth of valuable knowledge back. But there are also young bucks right out of college, and I want to talk to them about some of the new things that they're doing because it lights my fire all over again. Mentor students, mentor new professionals, mentor other people looking to explore different fields. I changed jobs at 49, and I did it. I joined Stages Learning because of their mantra. We will reduce the obstacles that prevent students from learning. We will close those gaps. We will work on foundational skills so all students can be successful. And it gave me a chance to, instead of being in a teeny tiny little world in my own district, to have the chance to talk with districts all across the country and world. And that's what told me I needed to take the leap. Amplify the successes of other women. There is no place better than Power Trip to amplify the successes of other women. But what are you gonna do afterward when you leave here? It's really easy to say it right now because I'm getting massaged. I'm like some oily, crazy, I was not gonna wash it off because I had the best massage of my life. I had all sorts of great experiences here, but what are you gonna do with it next? What are you going to do as an action step to take the next best step? And then continuously work on self-awareness. Journal. We talked about journaling right out of the gate. Journaling is a fantastic way to not only write down what you're learning, but also share new thoughts and things with other people. But you can also develop your own style and those things that are worth sharing. I also do have that little camera printer thing. Highly recommend. All right, so the other thing I want to make sure that you understand too is things like therapy. If you don't currently go, I don't care who you are, it's very, very helpful. Don't be afraid of it. Get some coaching, whether that's professional coaching, personal coaching, whatever the case may be. There are people out there ready and willing to help you. And then take time. We've all practiced maybe some meditation here or there, your massage where you just had some time just to think and be. But that self-reflection time is absolutely critical. So take Malala. She's a girl who, went up against the Taliban because she just wanted to learn. She dared to be different, and it almost cost her her life. But she did it. She did the hard thing. And then you've got somebody like Dr. Jane Goodall. Okay, you want to talk about being different? She wanted to live with chimps. Not exactly my cup of tea, but it, floated her boat, great. But she dared to be different, and she was a game changer because of it. They both were in their own way. But just because they are, known figures doesn't mean we can't be just as powerful. So we have an activity because we need to end with something super positive that will help us remember Power Trip a little bit better. On your tables, there is a cupcake container, whatever you want to call it, paper wrapper. And inside, you will see at least 5 black threads. Each of you gets a thread. And then there is a random assortment of beads. Now, I will say this, and pool ladies, you already know the rules. This is not, all of us type A people want to make a pattern. Nope. I'm gonna have some really specific guidelines for what you're going to do because I want this to be an extension of your journey. And whether you leave it on for an hour, a week, a month, just till it falls off, that's irrelevant. but I want it to be at least something that helps you leave Power Trip remembering your journey. All right. So you have beads in front of you. They're a random assortment of beads. They do still sort of match. They all are in the same general, earth tones because I'm not crazy. Like, I can't go super rogue. So they still all are sort of in the same family. But I want you to grab a bead and put it on your string. When you stop and think about your first memory, whatever comes to mind, good, bad, ugly, whatever. And I'm just gonna kind of keep going here, and you can just string your beads. But if you start doing a pattern, I know you're cheating, and I will find you. Think about your biggest win. Pick a bead, pick a color that ooh, yeah, that kind of reminds me of this. What was your biggest win? Personally, professionally, doesn't matter to me. Then what's your biggest fail? We've all failed, hopefully failed forward, but we've all failed and we've fallen flat on our face. So pick a bead for that. Think about your toughest challenge. Okay. This is somewhat of a fine motor test I'm seeing with a few people. Yeah. Lick your fingers, twist the end, goes through a lot better. These are the beads with the largest holes that exist, so you're welcome. Most profound and first profound sorrow. And then think about your happiest moment. What color makes you think of something happy? And for this reason, I love that I'm last because there's really nothing after. So if you want to bead till your heart's content, knock yourself out. I'll go back. Just hang on tight. But I do want you to stop and think about this too, because some people are beading like mad bandits. What small adaptations can you make to be a more inclusive leader? So you're also going to select colors for action steps, things that you can do when you leave Power Trip to move yourself forward. Come on. There we go.
Thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome.